It is the first time that I'm alone in about 2 weeks. It's good to be home in my family home for a day before I head back to work and all that. But I just want to encourage people to travel. Even if you're autistic like me or neurodivergent, and travel or being in unfamiliar places makes you fearful, I feel like a badass. I drove from London all the way up to Northumbria, then all the way up to Scotland, and then flew to an island and drove around on the island, then flew to another island and drove around on the island, and then flew back to Scotland and drove around unfamiliar places, unfamiliar people. But I got to follow a wormhole that I have been in for 10 years, almost to its conclusion. But of course it opened up a whole other set of wormholes. But as hard as it was to regulate emotionally during this trip, I actually felt very calm and even though I was driving on the wrong side of the road in an unfamiliar place, on roads that are like this big. It was an adventure, and driving onto ferries and seeing the wildlife that I did, I made so many memories that if I was still so fearful and not understanding of my own diagnosis, I wouldn't be doing these things, my travel. And the correct diagnosis helped me understand myself, and so understand my triggers, and to be able to explain those to people around me, like the TSA agent who pulled me aside for a random search yesterday. And I had my I'm a special person lanyard, and thankfully they understood and took me to a quiet place and explained everything so that I could process it, and then walked me back to where I was supposed to be. And I was able to be open about it for the first time, instead of just having a meltdown. I did have a meltdown, but it was understood instead of condemned. So I hope we start to move about in the world unmasked as I did this trip. It was my first trip unmasked. Oh yeah, and it's Pride. I'm queer as fuck. I think you already knew that, but just in case you didn't, happy Pride.